Hey guys, so I'm just letting you know right now this review is completely unscripted. Like I've got no notes, no script, no nothing. I'm completely going off the cuff here because oh god, this chapter left me with so many conflicting and emotionally frustrating feelings that it's hard to know where to even begin, frankly. Um I guess to start, I'll start off with the most basic thing, the emotion. The emotion in this chapter was amazing. And to go along with that, the artwork, like holy shit, like in terms of like emotionally stimulating, this was the most emotionally heavy chapter I've ever seen from Watakoshi, in the sense where he really tapped into the base emotional element of showing that despite all of Izuku's bluster, despite how much he says he doesn't need them, this chapter just laid everything bare, and especially honestly the one with Izuku and just how emotionally broken he's been, but also in a lot of ways it shows just like of all his friends, just pretty much how much Izuku relies on Ochiko as an emotional rock. Like Ochiko is the pretty much rock that has always been there, always been the one to kind of keep him in some keep him, I guess, grounded, or just keep him like just keep him on just keep him in a sense where he doesn't feel like where he feels, where in a sense where he feels afraid. Like this chapter just showed how from the very beginning Ochiko has always been Izuku's rock, and I like how, and one thing I especially like is how their relationship came full circle as well in this chapter. Like from pretty much the very beginning of the series, Ochiko had saved him from falling, and now here again in the exact same position, Ochiko has saved him again. But this time, instead of it, but from pretty much falling as well, but this time like falling emotionally, falling into that pit and despair of darkness that he feels he needs to be in order to succeed. And yeah, like it was just every frame, every bit of emotion was hit perfectly in this chapter. It was just amazing. Now, I guess the part of this where I feel conflicted though is, I think I'm a little where I'm conflicted though is in the response from the crowd. How immediately after Ochiko basically calling out everyone's, like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing just like last week's chapter, I loved seeing Ochiko just call out everyone's bullshit. That again, that in itself is an amazing part of saying, yeah, well, yeah, he's the only one who's actually got filth on him. What are you gonna do? But again, so I liked it in that sense. But as far as the response from the crowd themselves, it was a little too quick and kind of jarring for my opinion. Like I think for me, one of the big things about a chapter like this for me is whether it's going to come from a single, whether the response from like the people being addressed is going to come from a single source, or more than one source. And as much as the emotion was driven fucking home with Ochiko's speech, I didn't want it to be the only thing that drew them in order to rush to Izuku's side. I wanted there One thing I wanted there to be more hesitation from the crowd, and I guess we did get that in the previous chapter too, but I wanted there to be just a little bit more, because I feel because of that, I feel there's a missed opportunity in order to really involve the dog lady that Izuku saved, and Kota as well. Like that was kind of the one thing that I personally felt was missing from this chapter, is Kota's involvement. And don't get me wrong, how Horikoshi. like used Kota in this, it still worked because it pretty much showed how, despite all this time, despite everything Izuku has put him through, and despite how scary Izuku looks, Izuku still is Kota's hero. He's the one who saved Kota, and that hasn't changed after all this time. But again, at the same time, I wanted a moment where Kota, in the same thing that Izuku had become Kota's hero. I wanted a moment where we saw Kota becoming Izuku's hero. Like have a moment where there was still hesitation from the crowd, and use that as a moment to, like, to bring Kota in order to pull the old like emotional grab bag from a child's perspective. Have Kota be the one to kind of stand in front of Izuku and saying, I'm going to allow him in. I want to protect him, kind of thing. Like, yeah, that was kind of the big thing that was missing about this chapter for me, is that a lot of what was affecting the crowd, what was affecting their perception of Izuku, ultimately just from just laid bare on Ochako. And I didn't want, I get why, because again, the emotion in this was fucking amazing, but I didn't want that to be the only thing ultimately that led the crowd ultimately to kind of rush to Izuku's side. I think there was more, kind of like I feel there was a little bit more that could have been done with that whole situation, honestly. Like, I don't know. I feel there was more that this could have been fleshed out, honestly. Like, despite everything, like despite how powerful this episode was, that there was that element that still felt it was like underwhelming, honestly. And but to that end, I will also say one thing I really liked, about Ochako in this chapter, if I am being honest, is I like how a lot of what she's saying, a lot of what she's doing in this chapter isn't just motivated in order to help Izuku. She's pretty much motivated by pretty much Toga's words, by her confrontation with Toga. Like, it isn't coming out of nowhere. Her confrontation with Toga did pretty much actually save her. Did actually like there is motivation and there is reasoning that actually give her reasoning behind why she's doing this now. Like, it shows that she does have a much more, like, understanding of the situation and how she wants to go about it. And oh boy, yeah, that but getting back to Kota, though, the one thing I will say about the Kota moment, though, is, God damn you, Horikoshi, you had to go with that line, didn't you? The line where he said, "This is the moment. This is the moment where in Izuku's thought process, Horikoshi writes, "This is the moment I became the world's greatest hero, and the moment we became the world's greatest heroes." Like, God damn it, Horikoshi, you have such this again. This is one of those chapters where everything just came so beautifully back around. It was so good. But yeah, as I said, the most conflicting part for me is, as I said, the only real conflicting part of this chapter for me is the Ochako stuff. Because again, it is good, and tying her experiences with tying her experiences back with Toga and how that changed her. It did reinforce a lot. I just didn't want her to be the only reason as to why everyone would ultimately like flock to help Izuku. I think at the end of the day, that's really my only issue, is that I wanted more than Ochako. I wanted more than just Ochako's speech being the reason, I think. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dead Knight MMA, signing off. Later, all.